Anyway, that's enough of why you should take a deload. I think we should move on to how to take a deload when you need to take one. First of all, let me just say before I start any of this that there is no single optimal way to take a deload. Much like any strength or even bodybuilding, any kind of training, physical activity, there's no perfect optimal way to reach those goals. And deloads are exactly the same, where every single person is going to be different, so every single person needs a different style or way of deloading. But saying that, there are a couple of basic ways that you can approach a deload. There's a lot more complex ways to do it too, but today I'm going to be talking about 3 different ways that you can approach a deload when you need one. First and foremost, and this one is probably the most extreme version of taking a deload, because honestly, when it comes down to it, this version is just don't do anything. Just don't go to the gym, don't do anything strenuous, take a full week off and just relax. Just sit at home, catch up on your favorite shows, and just take some time away from the gym. This version of a deload is obviously the highest version, the highest on the recovery scale, because obviously you're doing nothing whatsoever with your body. So your body can have a nice weeks long recovery, or however long you're going to take a deload, just resting up and relaxing and fully recovering before getting back to the gym. This style of deload is great for recovery, but not so great for trying to work on your form and technique and keeping the blood flow and stuff moving. So it's not always advisable for every lifter. Obviously, that's only option number 1. Option number 2 is the 50% method, and basically that explains it all in the title. Is instead of doing what you usually do in your programming, you do all the same stuff, but instead you do 50% less of it. So that can include both weights and volume, or you can just do it as 50% of your weights but do the same amount of volume. So for example, say if you did your usual programming for bench was 3 sets of 10 at, I don't know, 100 kilos or so, instead of the 3 sets of 10 at 100 kilos, you'd do 3 sets of 10 at 50 kilos. Or potentially, you might even do 3 sets of 5 at 50 kilos, because obviously it all depends on how fatigued you are and how much rest you need and what works for you, obviously. So just experiment a little bit and see what works best for your body. This style of a deload is basically seen as just an active recovery week. It gives you a chance to work on technique and form and make sure everything is working in your body that should be working, but it also gives you a chance to rest up and recover and just have a break from your usual programming so you can actually make progress when you start it up again. Then there's option number 3, which I'm going to be giving you today, and this option is the option that I've chosen to do as my deload this time. This option is basically the lowest for recovery, but it's the highest for specificity, especially when it comes to powerlifting, because powerlifting is obviously who can lift the most weight in 1 rep. So basically, the way that I will be deloading is I will be going to the gym 3 times this week. I'll be doing 1 bench day, 1 squat day, and obviously 1 deadlift day. Basically, on each one of those 3 days, I'm going to be going into the gym for that specific exercise, work up to 80% of my max for a single, drop it down to 50% of my max, and then do 2 back off sets of 5, and then I'm going to do bare minimum accessories for that lift. Honestly, this style of deload isn't exactly the most optimal thing ever, but I've chose to do this version of a deload because honestly, the weights I've been lifting over this last cycle aren't actually that heavy really, and my body isn't that beaten up. So I just wanted to take a week where I stepped it back a little bit, but not too much. So obviously that 80% is lighter than I'm used to doing, but also it gives me a chance to rest and recover so I can actually come back in a week or so time and push it 100% again and hopefully be stronger and well rested and recovered than previously before the deload. Honestly though, I would not recommend this style of deload. I'd probably go with the 50% method for the majority of people, because that's probably one of the best ways of deloading, especially if you're an experienced lifter. This 80% way of deloading is not a good idea. Say for example, if you're someone who deadlifts something like 300 kilos, 80% of 300 kilos is still going to be a crap ton of weight, and that is probably still going to be pretty taxing on all your joints and tendons and nervous system and stuff. So yeah, 80% method, my method, the current one that I have chosen to do, I would not advise to do it if you are an experienced lifter. If you're kind of new and have only been into the gym for maybe a year or two, it's not too bad. But for anyone who's been lifting for half a decade or a decade or something, stay away from the 80% one. Go and do the 50% version instead, because that one will probably suit you a lot better. Anyway, I hope this helped somewhat. I know that sounds a little bit confusing the way I've explained stuff, but honestly, if you have any questions or anything, just leave it in the comments below and I'll definitely get around to replying. As I said earlier though, there are lots of different ways to deload. These are only 3 ways to deload, so if these don't really suit you, just give it a Google, have a look online and see if you can find anything else that's better for you, just to make sure that it's less than you're usually doing, whether that's be decreasing the weight or decreasing volume or whatever. Just make sure it's a break, it's less, and it's something that you like and enjoy both physically and mentally. Because let's be honest, taking time away from our usual programming, if you're really into the gym, it can be quite boring and not that enjoyable. So you kind of have to find something that's enjoyable for you. Anyway, I think that pretty much covers the exercise part of deloading. One thing I will add before I wrap this video up is basically how to eat on a deload. Whenever you're on a deload, you shouldn't really be changing how you eat so much. So whether you're bulking or cutting, you should still be either eating a caloric surplus or a deficit to try and reach your goals. But I would suggest that you reduce that deficit or surplus by something like 50%, because obviously you're not working as hard in the gym, so you want to avoid any fat gain or muscle loss throughout your deload week. Anyway, thanks for watching as always. I hope this video has helped you all somewhat. If you have any questions or comments or anything, please leave it in, obviously, the comment section below, and I'll make sure to get around to replying to you and answering all said questions and comments. Thanks for watching though, and remember to like, subscribe, comment, share, do whatever you want, and I'll see you all next time. Peace! There goes a sight from my soul.